There is a massive movement happening within the longevity and aging landscape. It turns out there is much we can do to extend our lifespan and reverse the effects of aging. What we've been taught and led to believe about aging and human disease are now outdated and no longer accurate. That means it's time to change the current mainstream paradigm and have different kinds of conversations when it comes to our well-being. And it's time to recognize that we have the power within ourselves to dictate and drive our own health span and aging journey. Hi, I'm Suzaida Hippolito, host of Timeless Vitality, where we are redefining aging so we become truly timeless. In recent years, I've come to realize that that societal and cultural norms teaches incomplete information to the mainstream when it comes to health and wellness. We're taught eat well, sleep right, or eat right and sleep well, take your vitamins, drink lots of water, manage your stress levels, and get regular doctor checkups. Now, while all that is true, it doesn't go deep enough. The mainstream dialogue around health and wellness is so incomplete that it does not inspire real change. It doesn't inspire people to take massive action and responsibility for their own wellness. From my own personal experience, I can tell you that my health and wellness transformed only when I stepped outside the mainstream teachings of societal and cultural norms and into holistic health, biohacking, functional medicine, coaching, and spirituality. This is why I'm so excited that we get to hear from an expert, a highly sought after leader who bridges all these aspects. Dr. Laura DeCesaris is a functional medicine health strategist for high achieving women, female entrepreneurs, and career women. She takes a female-centric approach to health and wellness, helping women better understand their brain and bodies so that they make better informed decisions all throughout all areas of their lives for optimal performance. Now, one of the things I truly love and appreciate about Laura's work is that she works with the natural intelligence of the human body and your unique lifestyle. Also, Dr. Laura has a specialty in anti-aging functional medicine. And as a thought leader, she contributes regularly to Rupa Health and has been featured on NBC, Forbes, Mind Body Green, The Greatest Parade, and many other online publications. She is truly, truly a trailblazer in redefining what it means to age and become timeless. So hi, Laura. Thank you for joining us. Where are you in the world today?
Oh my gosh, thanks so much for having me. So I'm located in Phoenix, Arizona, in the desert. That's where I am. Great place to be for wellness-oriented people. And I am just so excited about our conversation today.
Well, I am as well. And I'm going to dive right into it. I want the audience to hear about your hero's journey, because when we reach this point in our lives where we're contributing to the world, oftentimes it comes from a backstory. So I'd love to know what's your hero's journey? What was that pivotal moment in your life that was like the breaking point, that was the catalyst that turned you into this trailblazer that you are today, making a profound difference in the lives of women?
Great question. So we gotta go back in time a little bit for that. When I was in high school, actually, my mom, her identical twin, and my older sister all got diagnosed with thyroid cancer, like really close to each other. So I also got screened and thankfully was negative for that. But my little nerdy brain was like, wow, there's three people who are very like closely related. I think I'm going to study cancer and genetics. So that was my goal. I went to Cornell University, got a job in a research lab, literally my first week there, and promptly found out I hated being in a lab doing research. It was really lonely. It was not for me. The PhD students I was studying with just didn't love it. And I felt like I needed a little more interaction with people. So I was trying to figure out where do I carry this interest in, the connections between our bodies and disease. How do I get in front of more patients, right? Like how do I interact with people more? So obviously the next choice was medical school. But at this time in college, something really pivotal happened to me. When I was 21, I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's disease, which is an autoimmune thyroid condition. 21 years old, you think you're supposed to be at like the peak of your life, full of energy and vibrant. And that was not my story. I was exhausted all the time, no matter how much I slept. I was gaining weight, even though I was doing what I thought was everything right at the time. I was following all of the health recommendations given to me. I was just not feeling good. I couldn't concentrate. And I had this moment of, the irony hit me of here I am trying to study for a career in some sort of medicine, and I don't even know what's happening in my own body. The only answers that were given to me were, oh, well, it happens, and here's a medication for the rest of your life. But in my mind, I was like, well, three people in my family had thyroid cancer. I have another thyroid condition. Like, there's got to be something else than just, pure chance that this is happening. So while I was trying to figure that out, my mom, who has been into functional medicine and Reiki and energy healing ever since that cancer diagnosis, way before it was as common as it is now, I came home from break on a college break. She's like, come with me. You're coming to see my functional doctor. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but okay, I will humor you and I will go. So I go to this appointment and the woman, Dr. Diane, she was in her mid 60s, loved her job, which was kind of rare to see in other doctors I had shadowed at the time. She spent like 3 hours with me going into every aspect of my health, my diet, my digestion. She was like poking different parts on my body and knowing things about me, like, oh, you're dealing with this issue, aren't you? And I was like, how did she know that? Turns out she was a functional practitioner, had been doing this for years. And she really showed me that there was this whole other side of healthcare and medicine that really looked at the whole person. And she pointed out to me that the all-nighters and the soy lattes that I thought were healthier than regular lattes were actually terrible for my autoimmune condition, and had to fix up my gut because that was a big contributor to autoimmune issues. And that brain fog was coming from inflammation and really all of these things that I just hadn't even heard about. So I pretty much decided the next day I wanted to do what she was going to do because it was just such a novel experience. Um, and really decided to start heading in that direction immediately. So went off to grad school, got my master's in nutrition. I got my doctor of chiropractic degree. I studied with the Institute for Functional Medicine, then the Academy for Anti-Aging Medicine. And the cool part was, as I was studying and learning all of this, I got to be my first test patient. So everything I learned, all of the lab tests I encountered, supplements, different therapeutic diets, different biohacking tools, even before I knew it was called biohacking, I got to try everything on me first and figured out how to put my autoimmune disease into remission within a few years. And I haven't really had issues with that since. So it was just a really amazing experience that showed me there was a different way. And I'm just so thankful I didn't settle at 21 for being told that I just had a lifetime of medication ahead of me. Not that I'm against medication. I think there's a time and a place for it, but to tell someone so young that there's nothing else they can do to fix a chronic health condition, in hindsight, that was just terrible, terrible advice. Um, and really just, I'm so grateful that I found this whole other world that I now get to share with my clients and on my platforms and show people, hey, there's this whole other area that we can look at. It's like you're not satisfied with your care, with your health. There's a whole other story that we can look at and figure out how to get you feeling your best, not just now, but moving into the future as well.
Wow. The one of the things that stands out for me in that story is that you didn't accept the diagnosis that, here's your medication and you're just going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. Like you were actually curious and you said, no, there has to be another way. There has to be another way. And I feel like for most people, it's so easy because we're taught to trust doctors, we're taught to completely trust practitioners. And while you trusted them, but you didn't settle for the prognosis, if you will. You literally you came from a place of curiosity. Like, tell us about that way of thinking. Why do you think you had it within yourself to challenge the status quo?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been curious since I was a kid. You can ask my mom about that one. Just always, always curious in the world around me. But I think encouraging people to be more curious when it comes to their health, that's something I continue to do because I think too many of us are not curious. Instead, we've kind of been brought up to think our health has to be scary or hard, and that we just ignore things until it gets to the point where we can't ignore them, and then we go to someone and they give us a pill to fix it, and then we shouldn't worry about it anymore. But instead, when you embrace things that don't feel right in your gut, and I think as women, we have a really strong power of intuition. We get these gut feelings when things just don't feel the way they should. I don't always know if there's science behind that, but I know that I always trust my gut for that reason. Um, Maybe I'm also just a little stubborn as part of it. But I think embracing things with curiosity and learning that there's lots of different ways to look at a given issue, in this case, a health diagnosis. And the more information you gather, the more informed your decision making is going to be, right? If you only hear one side, one piece of the puzzle, you're making decisions based on very limited information. Instead, when you're like, okay, I wonder how many people can share this with me. Conventional doctors, integrative doctors, other patients who deal with this condition, like where can I learn as much as I can to figure out what is the shared experience here, and what feels really good in terms of decisions that I can make for myself. Because I also think that different decisions are okay for different people. But if you aren't curious enough to go looking for that and to talk to people and to get different opinions, you just don't have all of the information that you need to make a really sound decision. And I think things like medication, things like managing a diagnosis, it isn't something you should take lightly. You should look into that and you should be curious and you should learn more. And in an ideal world, we have a healthcare system that helps educate you on all those options, but that's not the reality. That's not the way our system is set up. So it does fall on us as patients to gather that information or to work with people that can guide you on learning about all of your different options along the way. Um, but for me, playing an active role in my care and in my life has always been a priority, right? I'm not going to sit on the sidelines and have somebody tell me what to do. I want to be the decision maker of my own life.
Now, I love that you bring in not just curiosity, but also intuition. And I want to touch on this because to me, intuition is the natural intelligence of your body speaking to you. And oftentimes as women, we can ignore that intuition, we can suppress it until and then we end up waiting until something dramatic happens in their lives before we finally start listening to that intuition. Can you tell us more about intuition in terms of helping navigate your own health and well-being?
I love that you're asking about this because I think this is a really nuanced topic that it's being talked about a little bit more now, but I think that hasn't been the shared experience of women through the years. I think as women, we've been disconnected from our bodies for a long time in the conventional medical world. And by that, I mean, you go in, you see the doctor, they're not really asking how you are. They're looking at your labs, they're looking at a form, maybe not even looking at you all the time, and then making a decision accordingly. But they're not asking about the other parts of you that are outside of how your physiology is working in the labs, right? Like, how are you really? Like, how are you feeling as a person? Are you feeling fulfilled? Are you feeling seen? Are you feeling heard? Are you feeling joy? All of these other parts that are equally important to optimal health and well-being than just the biochemistry. So all that being said, we're a little bit disconnected from our bodies. We've been turned into lab lists and diagnoses. And for a lot of women, unfortunately, when they're told their labs have been normal and they say, but I'm not feeling well, right? I've had mood swings, I'm anxious, I can't sleep, I'm emotional. For a lot of years, women were told it's all in their head and they were handed, antidepressants and other medications or to mask it. So, talk about being kind of gaslit around paying attention to their intuition, that inner nudge that something was not right, even if the data was saying things were fine. So I think we've been in a big, massive shift of relearning how to reconnect to our bodies in the women's health world. And I think this concept of intuition is a big part of that, meaning sometimes there's things that we know, like we know them in our core, that the science hasn't caught up with yet, or that the science can't test. Like we know when things don't feel right, when things feel wrong. And just because someone hands us a lab list and says you're fine, that shouldn't negate that feeling. And so I think when you have those feelings of, okay, this feels really good for me, right? Like this ritual I have, this way of eating, this feels really good for me, even though this other person tells me it's pointless, it's meaningless, it doesn't do anything. I know that when I do these things, I feel so good and I show up like a really good version of myself and I sleep well, right? That's that intuition piece coming in of you being connected to your body. You know that these things are working well for you. Versus if you were to ignore that and be like, nope, I'm going to follow this diet because someone said that's how to manage my disease, even though when I do this, my hair's falling out and I feel terrible and I'm not sleeping well and my skin's breaking out, but this is what somebody told me to do, even though it doesn't feel right. So bringing the intuition in, I think, just helps us, again, center ourselves and be curious about which things are actually working for us and which things aren't.
So that takes me now into the question of functional medicine, right? Because this is all what you describe is what I understand to be part of what functional medicine is about. Can for the audience who is hearing about functional medicine for the first time, how do you define functional medicine? How does it compare to Western medicine, Chinese medicine, Eastern medicine, and there's also integrative medicine?
It's a lot of words out there, kind of hard to keep track of everything. So I think the simplest way to think about functional medicine is it's a way of looking at your health, at any symptoms that you have, at just feel how you feel from a more proactive and really whole life approach. So by that, I mean, most people's experience when they go to the doctor is they wait till something's wrong. We go to the doctor. Hey, my arm hurts, my stomach hurts, my head hurts. The doctor maybe runs some tests and says, here's your pill, your whatever it is to make that symptom go away, right? And sometimes that's really important, right? And people have massive infections or other dangerous things. Like you need somebody that can identify that and stop the process. However, where functional medicine comes into play is someone comes in with a gut issue or a headache, instead of just giving them a pill to make it go away, functional medicine says, okay, how did we get here to this person that's dealing with headaches? Let's use that for an example. Where are the headaches coming from? Is it from a food? Is it dehydration? Is it this person's stress? Are they not sleeping well? Do they have a lot of stressful relationships in their life? Is it hormone fluctuations? Figuring out what's causing those, and then how do we actually set this person up for success long term by approaching addressing their diet, their lifestyle, their relationship with stress, exercise, supplements if need be, things that help balance hormones. So it's not just about getting rid of a symptom, it's also about setting up the healthy foundations so that those headaches don't keep coming back and you have to keep going for help over and over and over again. So it's beyond symptomatic relief. It's really looking for a strong foundation of health and not just longevity, but a health span, right? How many of these long years are healthy and happy and active versus, being super sick in the last decade or two of life. So it really looks at mind, body, spirit, all of these different aspects of life outside of just, symptom management, just nutrition. It's much bigger than that. And what I love about functional medicine is it's a very cooperative effort to try to better the health of everyone around it, meaning there's MDs, DOs, naturopathic physicians, DCs, nurse practitioners, dietitians, coaches, like a whole army of people who are all looking at your health in this very holistic way to support people to be curious and to learn how to take an active role in their care. So it's almost like, you go to school to study things in terms of your career and profession. Well, functional medicine, if you find the right person to guide you through that, you can spend a couple weeks, a couple months really learning about your body and how to take care of it so that you're better equipped to do so moving forward versus always having to rely on someone else to kind of troubleshoot those problems for you. So really, I think functional medicine does help people reconnect to their body and how they feel. And functional medicine integrates a lot of different other areas of medicine, right? A lot of people in there also look into Chinese and Eastern medicine. Some have backgrounds in acupuncture. There's people that are looking at herbalism. So lots of different areas of health history are brought into that picture.
Wow. So it's this really complex web of understanding. How are you living your life and how is it affecting what's going on in your body? And that's not something in the Western world of medicine that, as you've been pointing out, we typically dive into with those practitioners. Now, I want to ask Laura, what are some of the more common things that you're seeing women, because you serve women who are high achievers, entrepreneurs, and career-driven women. What are some of the more common problems or health challenges, if you will, that your clients go to you for? And what are the results that you've seen in these women after they've done work with you?
Sure. So while it's kind of a mixed bag depending on the person, I would say the three primary buckets um, of patient presentations I tend to see are first and foremost stress and burnout, especially after the last few years. Just a lot of working women, working moms who just have a lot on their plate and are trying to figure out how to find the time to take care of themselves. So we have stress and burnout. Hormones are definitely a big one. I do see a lot of midlife women, and hormones are just changing. Like learning to drive a new car in your late 30s, your 40s, your 50s, the things you did when you were younger just aren't really working the same way anymore. So different types of hormones, we're doing a lot of work with that. And the third would be gut issues, whether that's, reacting to certain foods, feeling bloated, maybe feeling constipated, just knowing that something around their gut, the way they're eating is just not really working for them and wanting to set themselves up for success long term. A lot of the women I work with are continual learners, just like everyone who's watching this summit right now. They're going to learn more. So they're reading about how the gut is related to the immune system and how the gut is related to the brain. And they're really wanting to, not just get rid of symptoms, but optimize those connections long term. So when we work with women, when they kind of come in, depending on where they're starting from. So let's use one of those as an example. We'll use the hormone bucket. Someone comes to me saying, I think my hormones are out of whack. Maybe my menstrual cycle's changing. I'm all of a sudden getting anxious. I'm not sleeping at certain points in my cycle. I'm in my 40s and I have acne for the first time. Like all of these things are changing. And a lot of them are going to their doctor and just being offered like birth control. And these women are like, I'm 45. I don't want to go on birth control. Like, what are my options here? So typically we do things in a couple of different ways. We obviously want to I want women to get symptomatic relief, of course. I don't want someone to feel poorly while we're figuring out what's going on. So we'll do things called rapid relief protocols that just kind of help the body systems work a little bit better. We'll use different types of functional lab testing. So maybe hormone testing, maybe we'll look at cortisol melatonin rhythm. I typically am looking at gut testing, even if there's hormone issues. So we data gather. we look at all this information to figure out, okay, how did this person get here at age 45 with hormone issues? What is actually happening with the hormones? What other things in their body are possibly contributing to that hormone dysfunction? Then we start putting all the pieces together, right? Okay. When we find out maybe she has some gut issues, she has some imbalances in the gut microbiome, some dysbiosis that's causing her estrogen to not be eliminated the way it needs to. And she's 45, super stressed, her progesterone levels are low, and it's creating this state of higher estrogen relative to progesterone because she's not eliminating estrogen and she's not making progesterone. So all of a sudden it feels like in her 40s, she has PMS for the first time and she's bloated and she doesn't feel good and she's puffy. And so we have to start looking at ways to support that. And we do that by addressing her stress, supporting the HPA axis, the connections between brain and adrenals for stress. Maybe she's someone who's a good candidate for bioidentical hormones, depending on each patient preference. What does she need to do in terms of her nutrition to help support rebalancing that gut microbiome? What is her relationship with stress? So we're not just telling these women, don't stress about that, because that's never helped any of us not be stressed, but really work on the relationship with stress, right? Where is that stress coming from? Us not setting boundaries, from us not asking for help, right? From us not prioritizing a little bit of time for ourselves because we think somewhere in our head it's like selfish to take care of ourselves, which it's not. Permission for all of you to do that, especially you mamas. I see you. And really just, we're looking at all of these aspects of life, of their lives to help them understand, okay, now how do we start implementing these things in a way that feels simple and time efficient? Because again, I work with a lot of career-driven women that time and energy are some of their biggest currencies. So I can't just give them a 40-page PDF and be like, read this and go do it. We kind of just start building things in one or two at a time that are real simple and time efficient and get them results. And then those build on each other. And then all of a sudden, a couple weeks, couple months later, they're feeling way better. And it was easy for them to start adding those things back in. So I think sometimes it's just the delivery of how in functional medicine we can help people navigate those changes, because it can feel overwhelming if you're trying to do that by yourself and change your diet, change your sleep, carve out time for yourself while also taking care of the kids, not making 3 different meals for you and your family. So I value being able to work alongside my clients and implement those changes in a really simple way.
Thank you for sharing all of that. I mean, it is intricate and there's so many interrelated things that impact our health. And I love how you lay it all out. And I also know that the way that you work with your clients is in a simplified framework. And now I want to ask, part of your specialty is in anti-aging functional medicine. So to that, can you define for us anti-aging versus longevity versus lifespan? Because I know in this world of aging and longevity, those 3 terms mean differently. So aging, longevity, and lifespan.
I think anti-aging has been a marketing term for a long time. I don't love it because I don't know about you, but like I don't really want to go back to my 20s. I made a lot of mistakes in my 20s. But aging is a privilege, right? So reframing aging as something that can actually be an incredible experience versus it's just the way we talk to ourselves matters, right? So if we're continually pursuing anti-aging, it kind of brings up this emotion of like, oh my gosh, we can't age. If we age, it's bad, right? It has to be anti-aging. So I think that's been a marketing phrase that we could probably do away with if I had my way. Just promote more empowered aging, healthy aging, and aging on our own terms. I think that's where when we get into more longevity and people talking about lifespan versus health span, that's really where we're going. So when we look at the longevity world, at its core, the word longevity is how long is something, like how long are our lifespans? How long do we live for? But it's not just about the number of years, and that's where the health span piece of it comes into play. So your health span is how many of those years you're living are healthy, active, independent years. So, here in the US, we have something like a 16-year gap between health span and lifespan, meaning 16 of those years before the end of someone's life, they're typically spent with chronic illness. They're not able to do the things they want. They're in poor health. And that's a big chunk of life. 16 years is a big chunk of life. So here in the aging and the longevity world, we're trying to increase that health span to match the lifespan. Obviously, we'd love to extend both, right? We want to live super long, happy, healthy lives. But we want to make sure that the years people are living are healthy, active years on their terms, not spending the last decade or two of your life not able to really do the things you love because you have chronic illness, you have these other issues. So I think the goal of the longevity space, at least in my mind, is helping people understand what that means, and that when we get there depends on what we were doing in all of these years prior to, right? So now we're building the foundation for what happens later. So I'm 35, almost 36, but I'm looking at my habits every day, not just for the here and now, but how is this going to set me up for 15 years from now, for 30 years from now? Am I going to be able to do the things I want later in life? Because I know those habits start now. If I wait until things go wrong to try and fix them, chances are I'm probably not going to get the results I want versus just being proactive about them now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and what I hear in this, it's reframing, you're reframing what it really truly means to be age. And going back to cultural norms and societal norms, we've basically have accepted that as we get older, we get older, and things, and getting older has naturally been associated with this ease, with suffering, with a host of health issues, chronic conditions. And I know, and you know, and many people in the people in the longevity space know it doesn't have to be that way. And to that, I want to ask you, can you tell us to what extent are you seeing women over 40 really truly starting to embrace their age and getting older?
Absolutely. I think this whole topic is having like a really big moment right now. Aging women, but also wanting to age a certain way on their terms, and kind of putting aside stereotypes, societal stereotypes about what it looks like and what it feels like to be a woman who's aging. Um, I feel like a lot of the women who I'm meeting in their 40s and their 50s and beyond are just like the most badass women I've ever met. Obviously,
Yes.
I meet a lot of those women in the longevity space, but gosh, I'm just thinking, I was at the gym in Colorado over the summer at my parents' house. My parents live in the mountains of Colorado, really high elevation. So I get there from the low desert and I'm sucking wind. I can't breathe at a high elevation. And I go into the gym and there's this sweet little old lady who's like 75 lifting weights in the gym. And I'm just like, this is what I want to see. This is amazing, because she knows that she is not frail, that she shouldn't just, sit down and be afraid to move around. She's setting herself up to do the things that she wants to do for the rest of her life. And she's putting in the work to do that. And it's something that I'm seeing more and more of. And I love that. I think it's really important. And I think women are also just doing a lot of cool things. I see a lot of female startups, female founded companies that are looking at supporting midlife women in menopause and after menopause, to just have as many options as possible to live a long, healthy, happy life. Lots of different, tools for hormones, for all sorts of things. So I think it's an area that's finally starting to get some recognition and growing. I think it's probably only going to grow. And I think there's a lot of incredible female influencers in the space who are just bringing more awareness to the conversations around longevity and aging from a health standpoint, from a hormone standpoint, from a strength training standpoint for women in particular. Because up until not so long ago, we weren't part of the conversation, and we certainly weren't part of the research, and we still are way behind being part of the research. Most research was done on white men, and then applied to women, and that just doesn't work that way. So I think the awareness of all of this is just really changing the industry to having more female specific approaches.
Mm, thank you. Thank you for painting a picture of what's truly possible. And I love and super appreciate that share, because you've just interrupted some of the limiting belief system, the systems, the outdated belief structures of what it means to get older, right? With these new ways of thinking about getting older. Now, I ask all of my speakers these three questions, and this one you've already touched on. Where do you see the future of longevity?
Mm, that is a great question. I really do think it's not necessarily going to be in product based. Well, I think there's a lot of great products that are continue to come out. I think the future of longevity is really going to be in teaching people starting from younger and younger ages about how their lifestyle impacts their lifespan and their health span. I also do think that data-driven health technology like wearables is going to be a huge piece of that, because it gives people real-time feedback about different habits and how they're impacting things. And I think, kind of having some of those tools at your fingertips allows people to make more empowered decisions that will affect their longevity.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you for sharing more insights about what's possible and where we're headed. Now, the next question that I ask all of my speakers is, what is your number one life hack for promoting your own longevity?
Mhm. Tough question. My initial response is like, I'm literally sitting here next to my longevity supplement that I take every day. I like want to say that. And then the second part that always comes to mind when I think about what's helped me the most in my health journey and where I will continue to put my focus moving forward is my relationship with stress. Not just stress, but my relationship with it. Because I don't think stress is something we'll ever be able to avoid. And some stress is actually really helpful, but I work every day on my relationship with stress. And by that, I mean, how am I letting it be part of my life? Am I letting it run my life? Am I paying attention to things that I find stressful that actually have nothing to do with me and that I need to do a better job of setting a boundary of not bringing that into my world? And where can I intentionally add some stress in different areas of my life to build more and more resilience so that when I do come up against a massive unexpected stressor, I don't crash and burn because I've been practicing for it, you know, as we go. I'm into biohacking, and that's one of the reasons why I don't truly believe anybody loves a cold plunge. I certainly don't love it, but I know that little moment of stress helps me handle stress better in the long run.
That's really powerful, in particular for the busy, go, 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 career driven woman, the high achieving woman, and the female entrepreneurs, because we know we do live lives where, because we're so driven, we can't help but go, 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 go. And you putting the context of what is your relationship to stress, I think that's very, very empowering, and just a different way to help us understand how to navigate stress. Thank you for sharing that. And the last question, I think this might be my favorite one. What is a thought or act that takes you back to a childlike, playful state?
That's such a great question. I don't think I've ever been asked that before, but I love that one. I think we all need a lot more play in our adult lives. We stop doing that for some reason, and it's so important. Um, I think of two things that come to mind. One is reading like fiction, meaning, I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes I have this stack of like medical books and health books and personal development books. And when I think back to like, I loved reading as a kid, but I wasn't reading that. I was reading like Harry Potter and fictional books. And I think, working that creativity, that kind of fantasy world, I think just like really translates to creativity in regular life as well. So that's one. The other thing that comes to mind is ways that I move my body, meaning a lot of us as adults, we start to look at using exercise like a chore, like something we have to do, but how can you bring play into your movement? Maybe it is getting on the ground and playing with your kids. Maybe it's doing more primal movements where we're on the ground, right? We're like on all fours, we're crawling around, but it's supposed to be fun and playful while you're doing it, the way our bodies were designed to move. So for me, whenever I feel like I need to kind of maybe reparent my inner child, I always bring in movement, and then I always do something really fun. Maybe that is reading just like a fiction book that I used to love as a kid. Maybe it's going out and taking an art class with a girlfriend, something that's just like fun and doesn't require a lot of extensive brain power, but is something I would have loved doing when I was little.
Mhm. Just hearing you talk about that, for me, I'm like, okay, my stress is gone. Not that I've gotten pretty good at handling stress in my life, but just hearing you share that, it took me back with you to the playfulness. And thank you for that beautiful reminder of different ways that we can literally go back into that childlike state. Now, for the audience, I have asked Laura to offer you all a free gift so that you can experience what it's like to be in her universe. Laura, can you share with the audience what your free gift is? Yes, yes, yes.
I can. I'm super excited about it. So I've put together a women's biohacking guide that's specific around these concepts of longevity and aging as women. And I know we didn't have a chance to talk too much about biohacking, but for those of you who don't know what that is, this conversation we've been having about embracing curiosity about your health, about trying new things to figure out how your body responds best, that is biohacking. It's like a little N of one experiment where you just figure out what you do that makes you feel the best and builds your resilience and helps you age well as you go. So in the guide, I go into a lot of things that many of you have probably seen on social media and heard about, things like the sauna, things like cold plunges, things like fasting, things like different supplements, and show you, hey, these are what these things are for. This is how, as women, we can use them to feel better, to age more actively, and to promote longevity. And I say that that's specific for women because I talk about your hormones every step of the way, and we want to consider them when we're using these tools, because you and I sitting here and all the women watching, we are not the same person internally every day. We are continually changing with our hormones. And that's something that I think is really important to consider when we're using these different health and longevity tools, is when we're most primed to actually benefit from them.
Oh my gosh, what a gift. It's so practical, and it creates, I mean, you've listed it out for us so we don't have to do the research. You are a trusted expert, and thank you so much for putting that together for our audience.
Oh, you're so welcome. And for those of you who are data and research nerds, I do have the research linked there where it's applicable. So you can just go read up on that.
Perfect, perfect. Any parting words, Laura, for our audience?
Oh, I would just say I'm really proud of you for taking this time out of your busy schedule to learn about better supporting yourself. That in and of itself is a gift to future you. And when you're soaking up all of this information, when you're learning about ways to support your longevity, just remember, like, it also gets to be fun. Like, this can be a really fun experience for you that helps you be more joyful and experience more vitality and have longer, healthier, happier years. It doesn't have to be another stressful list that you add on to your to-do list that's probably already too long. These get to be fun tools that you can learn about and try one at a time, and pay attention to that intuition and see which works best for you.
I love it. So, with that, I say cheers to health and vitality. I say cheers to having access to easy tools to promote our own health and wellness. And cheers to making it easeful and fun.
Yes, those are great cheers.
Well, Laura, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart for creating this time, for your heart, for your generosity, for your wisdom, and for the unique way that you are helping women embrace healthy aging, redefining what it means to age and become timeless.
No, thanks so much for having me.